The pen felt heavier than it should have. My brother Marcus was leaning against the mahogany desk in the lawyer's office, checking his watch and smirking. He didn't even try to hide the triumph in his eyes. He thought he had just won. He thought he had successfully maneuvered me into signing away my childhood home, the family business, and every cent our mother had left behind. I could hear the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall, each second marking the death of the life I thought I knew. I didn't look up at him. I didn't want him to see that I wasn't crying. I wanted him to believe I was broken. "It's for the best, Elias," Marcus said, his voice dripping with a fake, practiced sympathy that made my skin crawl. "You were always the dreamer. Mom knew you couldn't handle the pressure of the firm. I'm just doing what she would have wanted." I knew that was a lie. Our mother had been a woman of steel and integrity. She had built Vance Logistics from a single truck into a regional powerhouse. She would never have cut me out. But as she lay in that hospital bed, drifting in and out of consciousness during her final weeks, Marcus had been the one managing her affairs. He had been the one whispering in her ear, and apparently the one drafting a new will. I signed the last page of the quitclaim deed. I pushed the folder toward the lawyer, a man named Henderson who had been on Marcus's payroll for years. Henderson didn't meet my eyes. He just tucked the papers away and nodded. "Is we done here?" I asked. My voice was thin, brittle. I was playing the part of the defeated younger brother perfectly. "We are," Marcus said, standing up and straightening his $1,000 suit. "I've arranged for a moving crew to be at the house on Friday. You can keep your clothes and your personal electronics. Everything else stays with the property. It's all listed in the inventory." "The house is being sold?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Already sold," Marcus grinned. "To a developer. They're tearing it down for luxury condos. It's a clean break, Elias. You should thank me. You're free now." I walked out of that office without saying another word. I walked into the crisp autumn air of the city, feeling the weight of Marcus's arrogance like a physical heat. He thought he was the predator. He thought I was the prey because I was the one who spent my time in the archives, the one who handled the logistics software, the nerd of the family. He forgot one very important thing. I was the one who built the systems he now thought he owned. When I got to my small apartment, one of the few things Marcus couldn't touch because I'd bought it with my own savings years ago, I sat down at my laptop. I didn't open a bottle of whiskey. I didn't call a friend to vent. I opened a command prompt. Retribution is a dish that shouldn't just be served cold. It should be served with surgical precision. Marcus was a man of optics. He cared about his reputation, his standing in the Chamber of Commerce, and his seat at the high-stakes poker games at the country club. He believed wealth was a shield. He didn't realize that in the digital age, wealth is just a series of entries in a ledger that he no longer understood. 3 months ago, while Mom was still alive and Marcus was busy restructuring her will, I had noticed something odd in the company's internal audits. Marcus was moving money, not just small amounts, but massive chunks of capital into offshore accounts. He wasn't just trying to take the company from me. He was trying to gut it before anyone realized it was failing. He was stealing from the very entity he was fighting to control. I didn't stop him then. If I had flagged it, he would have found a way to pin it on a rogue accountant, or even on me. Instead, I did something much more effective. I helped him. I had created a shadow server for the company's financial data a year prior, ostensibly for disaster recovery. Marcus didn't know it existed. Every time he moved money, every time he forged a signature on a transfer wire, my system logged it. It didn't just log the transaction, it captured the IP address, the keystrokes, and the digital footprint of the device used. I spent the next 6 hours watching the data stream. Marcus was already celebrating. He had just authorized a massive transfer of the estate liquidity, the cash Mom had saved for the company's expansion, into a private account in the Cayman Islands. He thought that money was his exit strategy once he sold off the remains of Vance Logistics. But Marcus was greedy, and greed makes people predictable. He had used the company's primary administrative credentials to authorize the move, credentials that I had quietly modified 48 hours ago. The transfer didn't go to the Caymans. It was currently sitting in a digital escrow account I had established in the company's name. locked behind a multi-sig wall that required two keys. One key was held by the company's board of directors, people Marcus had been lying to for months. The other key was mine. I took a sip of water and leaned back. The first phase was complete. Marcus thought he had millions. In reality, he had zero. But I wasn't done. The next morning, I went to the office. Not our office, but the office of a private investigator I had hired weeks ago. His name was Miller, an ex-cop who didn't ask questions as long as the checks cleared. "Did you get it?" I asked. Miller slid a thumb drive across the table. "Everything you asked for. Your brother isn't as discreet as he thinks. He's been seeing a woman named Elena. She's the wife of Julian Vane." I felt a cold shiver of satisfaction. Julian Vane was the developer Marcus was selling our family home to. Julian was also a man known for a very short temper and a very long memory. Marcus wasn't just stealing Julian's money through the inflated property deal. He was sleeping with the man's wife. "And the documents?" I asked. "Found them in the mistress's cloud storage. Marcus was using her as a secure vault for his side deals. He thought no one would look there. There are emails, Elias. Emails where Marcus talks about accelerating your mother's decline by withholding her specific heart medication." The room went silent. I felt the air leave my lungs. I had suspected Marcus was cold, but I hadn't realized he was a monster. He hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He had shortened our mother's life to get to the finish line faster. My hands trembled, but only for a second. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let the anger crystallize into a hard, sharp edge. This was no longer just about the money or the house. This was about justice. "Thank you, Miller," I said. "Send the invoice, and keep the original safe." I left the office and drove toward the family estate. I had 2 days until the movers arrived. I needed to see the house one last time, not to mourn, but to set the final trap. When I arrived, Marcus's car was in the driveway. He was standing on the porch with a glass of champagne, talking to a man in a hard hat, probably one of the contractors for the demolition. I parked my modest sedan and walked up the steps. "Back for more, Elias?" Marcus called out, his voice booming with false confidence. "I told you, the inventory is final. Don't go trying to sneak out any of the silver." "I just forgot a few books from the study," I said quietly. "Technical manuals. You wouldn't have any use for them." Marcus laughed, a sound that grated like sandpaper. "True enough. Go on then. Take your trash. Just be out by sunset." I went to the study. It was a beautiful room, lined with oak shelves and the smell of old paper. This was where Mom had taught me how to read a balance sheet. This was where we had spent our winters. Marcus had already cleared out her desk, but he hadn't checked the floorboards beneath the rug. I moved the heavy desk. It took every bit of my strength, and peeled back the corner of the Persian carpet. There was a loose plank. Inside was a small fireproof box. It didn't contain gold or jewels. It contained a leather-bound journal. My mother knew Marcus. She knew his nature better than anyone. She had written this journal in the last months of her life, documenting every time Marcus tried to coerce her into signing documents. She had even recorded conversations on her phone and written down the timestamps. She knew he would try to cut me out, and she had left me the roadmap to destroy him. I sat on the floor and read the last entry. "Elias is the soul of this family. Marcus is the shadow. If you are reading this, Elias, do not be kind. Do not be the better man. Be the man I raised you to be. Protect what we built." I tucked the journal into my bag. I had everything I needed. That night, the psychological pressure began. I didn't call the police. I didn't call the lawyers. I sent Marcus an email. It was blank, except for a single attachment, a photo of the journal's last page. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't answer. 5 minutes after that, a text arrived. "Where did you get that? It's a forgery. I'll sue you for everything you have left." I didn't reply. The next morning, I sent another email. This one contained a screenshot of the digital escrow account showing the millions of dollars he thought he had successfully hidden. I added a simple sentence. "The board is meeting at 2 p.m. today to discuss the missing funds." I watched the read receipt ping immediately. I could imagine Marcus in his glass-walled office, sweating through his custom-tailored shirt. He would be trying to access the offshore accounts only to find the access denied screen I had designed specifically for him. He would be calling his contacts in the Caymans only to find that the money never arrived. At 1 p.m., I arrived at the company headquarters. I wasn't dressed in a suit. I was wearing jeans and a hoodie. I walked past the receptionist, who looked at me with a mix of pity and confusion. "He's in his office, Elias," she whispered. "He's not having a good day." I pushed open the double doors to the executive suite. Marcus was standing by the window, his back to me. The room smelled of expensive cologne and desperation. "You think you're smart, don't you?" Marcus said without turning around. "You think you can play these games and I won't crush you?" "I don't think, Marcus. I know," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the accelerated medication. And I know about Elena." Marcus froze. He turned around slowly, his face a ghostly pale. "What did you say?" "Julian Vane is a very meticulous man," I continued, sitting down in the chair opposite his desk, the chair he used to make me feel small. "He doesn't like being cheated, not in business and certainly not in his marriage. I wonder what he'll do when he finds out the man he's buying a multi-million-dollar property from has been using his wife to hide stolen assets." "You wouldn't," Marcus hissed. "That would ruin the deal. You'd lose the house anyway." "The house is already lost to me, Marcus. You made sure of that. But you're about to lose everything. The company, your reputation, and quite possibly your life if Julian gets to you before the police do." "What do you want?" Marcus asked, his voice cracking. This was the moment. The power shift was complete. He was no longer the big brother. He was a cornered animal. "I don't want anything from you," I said. "I've already taken it. The board has the evidence of your embezzlement. They've already voted to remove you as CEO. The police have the medical records and the journal. And Julian, well, I sent him a very interesting package an hour ago." Marcus lunged across the desk, his face contorted with rage. But I didn't move. I didn't have to. 2 security guards, men who had worked for my mother for 20 years and who loathed Marcus, stepped into the room and intercepted him. "Get him out of here," I said quietly. As they dragged him out, Marcus was screaming. He was shouting about how he was the one who built the company's new image, how I was nothing, how he would kill me. I just watched him go. No shouting, no drama, just the cold reality of a trap snapping shut. The aftermath was even more surgical than the execution. Vance Logistics went into a temporary receivership, but because I had secured the funds in the escrow account, the company didn't collapse. The board, realizing I was the only one who actually understood the infrastructure, offered me the CEO position. I declined. I didn't want the title. I wanted the control. I remained as the majority shareholder and chief systems architect. I hired a professional management firm to run the day-to-day, ensuring the company remained profitable and ethical. Julian Vane did exactly what I expected. He pulled out of the property deal, citing moral turpitude clauses that Marcus had been too arrogant to read. The family house didn't get sold to developers. Because Marcus had embezzled funds to pay for the initial deposits, the house was seized as part of the legal proceedings. As the primary victim of his fraud, I was able to buy it back from the estate at a fraction of its value. Marcus is currently serving a 12-year sentence for corporate fraud and elder abuse. The medication issue was hard to prove as direct murder, but the evidence of neglect and coercion was enough to bury him. Elena left him the moment the accounts were frozen. She didn't even show up for his sentencing. Sometimes I go back to the house. I sit in the study and I look at the floorboard where the journal was hidden. People think revenge is about a big explosion, a moment of cinematic triumph. It's not. It's about the quiet moments afterward. It's about the silence in a room that used to be full of lies. I'm not the dreamer Marcus thought I was. I'm the architect of a new reality. He thought he could write me out of the story, but he forgot that I was the one holding the pen all along. The company is thriving. The house is restored. And every year on the anniversary of our mother's passing, I visit Marcus. I don't say much. I just sit there on the other side of the glass and I look at him. I want him to see that I am happy. I want him to see that I am whole. Because for a man like Marcus, seeing someone else thrive while he rots is the ultimate humiliation. He still tries to shout. He still tries to blame everyone else. But as the guards lead him back to his cell, I just offer a small, calm smile. He had his chance to be a brother. He chose to be a thief. And in my world, thieves always end up behind bars. I walked out of the prison today and felt the sun on my face. The air was clear, the weight was gone. It's amazing how much lighter you feel when you finally stop carrying other people's shadows. If you're listening to this and you feel like you're being pushed into a corner, remember, the person pushing you is usually so focused on the shove that they don't see the cliff behind them. You don't need to push back. You just need to step aside. Would you like to hear about the time my business partner tried to sell our company's secrets to our biggest competitor, only to find out I had fed him fake data for 3 years?